Welcome back, my friends. Thank you so much for tuning in. This is Silver Slayer, so now let's talk silver. I want you all to imagine a scenario. Imagine adding an entire tube of sealed 2023 Eagles to your stack, but instead of paying the $800 plus, all you had to do was click one button. Well, folks, I'm here to offer you that reality because I'm doing several silver giveaways over the next couple months as I approach 100,000 subscribers. So all you got to do is click the button, wait for the giveaway entry videos to drop, and then you have your chance. And like always, may the luckiest stackers win. Now, I went down a rabbit hole of silver manipulation articles. I dug deep and I found one in particular that is shocking, but in a good way. They just took things to an extreme level. The first sentence explains that word extreme to the fullest extent. Silver is, I can't even say that word on YouTube, but exploited. Silver manipulation equals crime, crime, and more crime. This is how I would sum up JP Morgan's operations, especially in the wake of this COVID-19 pandemic. So this entire article is summing up what JP Morgan has been doing to rig the price of silver. And I like the fact that they didn't downplay price manipulation like some articles do, and even more importantly, that they didn't come at it from one specific angle. This is a messy, messy topic, and it goes back decades. I mean, look at the JP Morgan situation. 3 of their employees got sent to prison, another one for racketeering, RICO charges, and they paid a $900 million fine. But it's not just that. It's not like they just got caught this once. They are going back decades and decades of price manipulation. Another thing about this article that makes it interesting is they went into some of the motives. You would think, it's just about money, but it's deeper than that. When you look at a bank, and a bank stems off of a centralized system, fiat currency. What is silver? Silver is a direct threat to the dollar. That's why there is a direct negative correlation to the dollar index in precious metals. Bankers, anyone that's stuck to a centralized institution is not going to want you to invest in the precious metals. And that's also why they downplay it. And that's also why if you have a financial advisor, they're going to try to push you more to stocks or something along those lines than precious metals. They'll talk about how it's a bear market, how the price doesn't do anything, but they're not going to go into the dollar losing 98% of its original purchasing power. They're not going to mention that we're $30 trillion in debt. They're not going to mention any of that. Now, beyond just going into the obvious central bankers doing shady, corrupt business behind scenes, it also goes into interesting questions like what allowed JP Morgan to corner the silver market, or how macro price manipulation is a team sport being played by banks, or even how JP Morgan views the US government as a leech and cost of doing business. So you can see why this article's particularly interesting to myself and why I think that we should cover this. So yeah, like I said, make sure you subscribe, like the video if you like the video, and let me know what you think about this. So now, my friends, grab some popcorn, kick your feet up. Let's take a deep dive into this article titled Silver Manipulation by JP Morgan, Lock Them Up, which, yes, they are getting locked up. Now, this article was written on January 29th, 2021, which you should know was exactly when Wall Street Silver was born, which is not ironic because this was the whole question. Can they break down the facade of the COMEX? And the answer was no, but during this time, the outcome wasn't shown yet. This is a current event while this article is being written. As you could see, he says this is going to get interesting. But this even validates his point even more, because since we do know the outcome and that we do know even 2 years later silver's still sitting at the same price, it shows that, yes, the price still is being rigged. See, up here he's asking the question of, is this going to finally have is this going to be the tipping point? He even mentions, this is going to get interesting. But nothing has changed. So if he was reading this article nowadays, it's aged very, very well. Regardless, though, then this article goes into silver's journey, which we really don't need to talk about. Now let's get into the meat and potatoes, which is silver's susceptibility to suppression and price slides. Now, I do think I should add some context into how silver's price is mostly manipulated, which is something called spoofing. It's when banks like JP Morgan go on exchanges and place tons of false buy or sell orders, talking millions upon millions of dollars, and over decades we're talking billions of dollars of false buy or sell orders on these exchanges, and then cancel the order before it goes through. And you think, what's the big deal? They cancel the order. Well, that volume on that exchange looks a lot different than what's actually happening on that exchange. So all the other investors on that exchange see a whole bunch of silver being bought up or a whole bunch of silver being sold, and then they in return start trading off of this false illusion of the exchange, not knowing that those orders are actually not going to be going through, that those orders are going to be canceled. So they're manipulating the other traders on that exchange to do what they want, and then they profit from it. The hardest part about this is you're allowed to cancel buy or sell orders. So how can you catch someone with the ill intent to do so? That's the hardest part about this, because they could just say, I was going to, but I canceled the order because of X, Y, and Z. So there's patterns that need to be involved, and you could see their alibi to this. Regardless, though, they have been caught red-handed, and they're paying up to billion-dollar fines nowadays. So silver's susceptibility to price suppression and slides. Though, like every metal and asset, silver is moved by market sentiments. It is an independent metal. This is so because its value is not tethered to any currency like gold. Its prices are not subject to the U.S. government and Federal Reserve System control. Its market is a global market with demands driving its price movements. The metal has a dual nature, which allows it to double as a monetary asset and commodity. While its nature highlights its suitability as a safe haven asset, the silver appears to have not benefited from this due to high industrial correlation. Not even going to go into what that means, because I'm sure you know what that means. Silver is not only a monetary metal, it's used for electronics and mainly for that, so it's the best of both worlds. It's not just pegged to gold. Silver can take off from the fundamentals of the silver shortage and the ever-growing green revolution we head into in this new digital age. Unlike gold, silver has a base of its demands on industrial purposes. Towards the end of the first quarter of 2020, most industrial operations had slowed down due to the effects of the global pandemic. Though questions had been raised about the result of the operational slowdown on the physical supply of the metal, more arguments and market sentiments had been placed on the industrial demand. Reports indicate that nearly 60% of the total supply of silver is directed towards industrial use. This highlights the fact that the dwindling numbers in physical and industrial demand of silver are a prime reason of the price decline experienced, further stressing price susceptibility to demand and supply. Now, that is complete BS, because nowadays we're seeing demand at record-breaking highs, 1.21 billion ounces, and the price still isn't up. There is a direct correlation between silver demand and silver price. If you look at a chart, when demand rises, price rises. And as we know, demand is going to be doubling, tripling, quadrupling over the next decade. What does that tell us? 1 + 1 = 2. But when you factor in price suppression, which was the whole point of him saying this, then you could see a little bit of the facade being exposed. Now, it is worth noting that silver's place as a hedge or insurance against economic downturns makes it an excellent investment choice for portfolio diversification. This, though, means, like gold, the price of silver is also influenced by real interest rates, the dollar index, market sentiments, or fear level. And like I was saying earlier, yes, the dollar index. And that's also part of why you would see your financial advisor egging you on to only use 5% of your portfolio into precious metals and nothing more. Now, I'm not going to go too much into this. I want to get into the meat and potatoes. I'm only going to tell you stuff you need to know. I'm not going to beat around the bush. So I already even went into how the price is manipulated, but I want to see if he mentions anything beyond what I did. So the discrepancies in current prices and projected prices mostly suggest a manipulation in place. Silver price is subject to market dynamics and movements primarily by the futures market players or commodity exchanges. So manipulation occurs due to any of the following mechanisms or a combination: the placement of shorts in the futures market or naked shorts; spoofing, which I explained, is placement and cancellation of fake orders placed; rehypothecation, which this entails placing the same ounce of silver as collateral for multiple loans and agreements, which we've seen that a lot as well; tweaking and rigging of rules on commodity exchanges like the LBWA and the COMEX, usually entails settlements of futures contracts made in cash instead of the actual physical silver. Manipulative funding entails injecting false liquidity in the market by harnessing dark pools of money to fund trades in the market. Now, that's a little bit of the controversial stuff. The main ones are spoofing and definitely placement of shorts in the futures market or naked. And actually, this one actually isn't even, I don't think you could say this is rigging the price too much, of just entailing settlements of futures contracts made in cash, settling in cash instead of the actual silver. I guess you could say that in the terms of if everyone turned in those contracts to physical silver, it would expose that it's being manipulated, but that itself I don't think would be considered manipulation. It's just a way to prove that the price is being manipulated, if you see what I'm saying. Because every ounce of silver that's on the COMEX or digitally, they're saying is equal 1-to-1 to actual silver floating around. But there's not that much silver floating around physically. And that's why I say if you can't hold it, you don't own it. Because, theoretically, every ounce of silver you own in your bare hand, 250 other people own that same ounce on the COMEX digitally. They think they own that ounce, but they don't. Those ounces are non-existent, because it's not a 1-to-1 equal ratio like the COMEX is trying to portray. So here's JP Morgan's alleged price manipulation. So for years, the global financial markets have been awash with allegations of price manipulation for precious metals such as silver and gold. And that's with no legitimate backup. However, the recent probe of financial institution JP Morgan expounded on these claims. See, I'm curious to see how much, or I'm curious if this guy knows how much of this trial has been played through as time of him writing this, because the trial has moved forward a lot since January 29th, 2021. 6 JP Morgan Chase employees were accused of manipulating precious metals futures by U.S. authorities. The bank had fallen under suspicion of spoofing thousands of gold and silver futures orders for its benefit and that of its premium hedge fund clients. This is the main this is the main effect of price manipulation you're going to hear, is spoofing, what I mentioned in the beginning of this video. The accusation levied against the bank had led to a 2-year probe by the U.S. Justice Department and the Commodity Futures Trading Commission, the CFTC. The manipulation campaign had been to place orders on the futures contracts, cancel them to mislead several market participants. So I'm not going to go into the excess stuff, right? So JP Morgan's alleged price manipulation was done by the traders placing many orders on silver in the futures market with no intention of following through with the contracts or executing the order. The plan is to inject false liquidity in the market and create a bubble to benefit their market position. With this, then the other market participants without adequate fundamental knowledge of the silver market movers buy into this bubble and in most cases get stuck with limited exit, right? They're manipulating the other investors to do what they want. They're not even really manipulating the price themselves. They're manipulating others to looking at a false market. So while JP Morgan has long been in the center of market manipulation allegations, several others were not left out. And yes, I could tell you 3 other banks right now. I mean, there was Merrill Lynch that also has a court case, the Dutch bank, and even the Bank of Scotia reportedly involved in silver rate manipulation between 2007 and 2013. So yeah, I mean that's four banks right there. And do you think those are the only four banks? No. I'm sure everybody, every banker, not everybody, but most bankers are spoofing. And it's sad to say that, just because these three people went to prison, those aren't the only three people doing it. So, this is an interesting title. JP Morgan views the US government as a leech and cost of doing business. So, here's a list of all the banks and how much money and assets they have and the derivatives. So, you can see down here, it's looking like $2.7 billion is JP Morgan, Goldman Sachs, $1 billion, yada yada. You guys can screenshot that or whatever. Macro price manipulation as a team sport being played by banks. Banks are working together as seen by the chart statistics. The trades of JP Morgan you can think of as a team captain in this fraud-laden activity they pursue. And who is the victim of their activity? Well, their own clients. Retail investors, even the governments of the world, they set the prices, they trigger the algos and simply control the market. No matter how many fines they pay, if they make many times more off the transactions, they will keep doing them. And that's the main reason why I say it was such a good idea to follow through with the prison sentencing. Because if you just keep getting fined and a slap on the wrist, even if it is a lot of money, it really isn't going to entice you to act any different. But if you know your actual life is on the line and you actually might get sent to prison, it might make you second guess that. Right? No amount of money is going to want to pursue you or sway you to do something if you might actually have to go sit in a prison cell for 4, 5, 6 years plus. That's what I think the main take out of their court situation happening was that they were getting sent to prison. So what allowed JP Morgan to corner the silver market? Well, I must say, and here we go, Merrill Lynch, some other banks that got caught spoofing. I must say that silver is a much smaller market than gold. Much smaller market. And that's why they manipulate silver. Gold's a lot harder to manipulate. Back in the 90s, when hedge funds and trading houses such as Merrill Lynch, Goldman Sachs, and others in the hedge fund industry were making huge incomes, the bankers became very, very, very jealous and wanted in on the action. This is where the monopoly effect, of which I will talk about in future articles, and the negative impacts it has on our society as a whole will come into play. Clinton started the ball rolling by allowing the repeal of the Glass-Steagall Act, and then coupled with Bush deregulation and tax cuts, the public were sitting ducks for the bankers' evil plans. Look at JP Morgan's red line, depository silver stocks. And it is funny because JP Morgan works with the COMEX. Their employees work on the COMEX. So we're talking about a bank that's gotten caught manipulating the price of silver, also works on the COMEX. So there is a lot in this article, obviously, and that's why I'm not going over all of it. If you want to read all the fine lines, I always link these articles in the description. I don't want you guys to think I'm just like, I'm specifically picking parts of this article on purpose because I want you guys to know the main stuff. I think this is pretty important. JP Morgan now holds 133.1 million ounces of physical silver, and the world record for most is under one name. And that also owns 50% of the world's COMEX silver bullion. And that's on June 4th, 2019. Imagine what that number is today. So let's keep moving on. I think I'm not going to go into any of this. So JP Morgan gives us all the middle finger as they buy silver. Do you really think JP Morgan did not benefit on the price collapse exaggeration, which, in my opinion, I bet if anybody in the government with oversight would investigate could easily find in JP Morgan's trading of silver how they were responsible for much of the exaggeration effect of the above chart, fall silver to $11. And that's when they're talking about March of 2020. when silver fell to $11 right when COVID started. And that was also a couple months later, I think it was August, when gold broke past $2,000, the highest price gold's ever been. And, and yeah, I mean, I'm sure. And see how these two articles tie in. Don't be surprised if silver is a massive move in the future. After all, Jamie Dimon and friends need to get paid. And actually, let me tell you a funny story about Jamie Dimon, which is obviously the owner of JP Morgan. Let me tell you a funny story about Jamie Dimon and how he also manipulated Bitcoin's price. A lot of people don't know about this story because I'm sure a lot of you watching this aren't into Bitcoin, or if you are, weren't into Bitcoin back when this happened. This was back in like 2016, maybe 2017. I've been covering silver and Bitcoin back then. Back then it was a lot more Bitcoin than nowadays. I focus on silver nowadays, but regardless, Jamie Dimon, he went on like what was it? I think Fox News or something along those lines. And this was when Bitcoin was exploding, right? I started making videos on Bitcoin when it was like $1,000, maybe like $800, and this was after it took off. It's on the way like $16,000. And Jamie Dimon comes on Fox News or CNN, whatever, and says Bitcoin is a scam. Says Bitcoin's a scam. It's fake. Don't buy it. And then after he came out and said that, obviously, clip went viral. Everyone started selling their Bitcoin, shot Bitcoin's price down thousands and thousands of dollars. But the funny thing about Bitcoin is it runs off of a blockchain. Blockchain stores every transaction publicly. And you know what people found right after Jamie Dimon, owner of JP Morgan, came out and said that? Shot the price down thousands of dollars. JP Morgan was caught on the blockchain buying millions upon millions of dollars in Bitcoin. That's the same type of tactic as spoofing. They're not manipulating the price. They're manipulating other investors to do something that they want, and then they, after the investors had affected the price to do so, buy up all of it. That's what they did. Why would Jamie Dimon call Bitcoin a scam and a terrible investment, and then all of a sudden, after just so happened the price falls, then he buys boatloads of it? He did that on purpose. So here's a conclusion. The offset of the coming inflation is in all the charts. Wonder if Trump knows Jamie Dimon is in FU mode and bets Trump won't get reelected. I'm sure he's 100% fine with that. Or do you think he is? Maybe someday should tell Trump that Wall Street and smart money are betting against him. Anyway, I see silver going above $18. I can only laugh at some point when the effects of JP Morgan and their billionaire friends who work for come to roost. There will be a price to pay. It's not likely for them, as all of their corrupt behavior is paid by the people, or should I say sheeple. So you can see how this article is very controversial. You can see how this article is written by a guy, which he even says up here. I probably should have covered this in the beginning. Where's it at? Where's it at? He talks like, these are my opinion. This is, where's it at? This is important for me to mention this in here. Oh, here. Now do note that this is a rant I'm going on about here, and it's my own personal opinion and can be argued many ways. But who cares? Look at the cause effect numbers, as they don't lie. Jamie Dimon can spin it any way he likes, obviously. Or obvious is obvious. And that's a good point. You could try to argue this many ways, and I'm sure some will in the comment section. But we do know that numbers don't lie. Some things are too ironic to be ironic. They are in the middle of a court sentencing. They have gotten caught spoofing. They are paying $900 million. I mean, that stuff is a fact. If you want to go into the deeper stuff, the messier stuff, the stuff you really can't prove, but it's blatantly obvious, you could try to argue that all you want, but why? At the end of the day, silver's price should be a lot higher. It's not. But another point is, and that's, I think, the biggest thing we should be talking about, is regardless if the price is manipulated right now or not, the fundamentals will outweigh that, which is supply and demand. Everything pushes and pulls silver prices to some degree. Maybe the dollar index is 50%. Stock market volatility is 5%. Bitcoin's price is, 10%. Gold's price is 54%. Whatever. I'm just making up random numbers. But fundamentals has the biggest effect. Low supply, high demand. Shoots the price up. Low supply of silver. High demand of silver. That will outweigh any type of spoofing. Which, by the way, spoofing is in very short instances, in very short stints. You could try to hold it down, but when we run out of silver, and I mean actually run out, not right now where, you could sweep it under the rug. I'm talking about in 5-10 years when we will need a lot more silver than we do now, but we're already following record-breaking supply deficits already in 2023. Imagine what that gap will be like in 2026. That's when its natural price will start to shine, because you cannot manipulate, you can't hold back that type of asset that's that critical, that has that critical of a role to play. See what I'm saying? So anyways, yeah, I'm gonna wrap this video up here. I know this was a long video, but this was a long article, and this situation is definitely not something that can be just swept over in a couple minutes. Remember, I'm doing a giveaway, or several giveaways actually. It's my way of saying thank you as we approach 100,000 subscribers. I know it may seem like we're a long ways away, but we're 26,200 or 24,800 subscribers away. And, that's around 25,000 subs, and 25,000 subs ago was 50,000. And I swear I just did my 50,000 subscriber giveaway. It seems like yesterday. That was not that long ago, and I'm growing even faster. So trust me, you're going to want to subscribe, and you're going to want to stay tuned, because I'll be doing the entry videos soon, and they will be consistent. It's not like you just have one chance. You're going to have multiple chances to win, and may the luckiest stackers win. So yeah, I'm going to wrap this video up here. Thanks for tuning in. This was Silver Slayer. I'll see you guys soon. Peace.